Hi everyone, I'm Kashfi and my presentation is called Justice on the Shelf, and it's about the untested rape kit backlog in the United States, where thousands of pieces of evidence collected from sexual assault survivors are never actually tested. The rape kit backlog caught my attention, especially because it's a strange kind of social problem. Usually, when we talk about justice, people are demanding tools the system doesn't really have. But here, the tool already exists, a rape kit and a DNA lab sitting ready, and yet thousands of these kits are never actually tested. As a forensics minor myself, I keep coming back to one question: who is choosing not to look at this evidence, and why does that choice keep repeating until an entire backlog forms? That question drives my whole paper. I looked at three connected subtopics. First, the backlog itself. Second, DNA matching through a national database called CODIS, which stands for the Combined DNA Index System. And third, the reforms and survivor tracking systems that states are now using to fix this issue. So here's where things stand. The good news is that states are finally tracking the problem. At least 37 states and Washington, D.C. now have tracking systems. But the Joyful Heart Foundation still counts 49,248 untested kits just in the states that report it. And the true national number could be anywhere from 90,000 to 400,000. The second thing I found is that testing actually works. Between a quarter and half of tested kits have produced a usable DNA profile, and most of these produce a hit that can point to a particular suspect, often a serial offender who has hurt many other people. And third, the backlog can be cleared. North Carolina has found over 16,000 untested kits, passed the law, and now testing has led to more than 2,700 database hits and 114 arrests. So this problem is definitely solvable. A few numbers that really stood out to me. Nationally, there are at least, like I mentioned, 49,248 untested kits reported, and since 2011, the country has spent over $1.3 billion trying to fix this. But the number that struck me the most was a local one. Massachusetts is actually a national leader. It requires kits to be tested within 30 days, much faster than the national average, and yet, in 2023, the Boston Police Lab missed that deadline on 93 of 186 kits, about half, while the State Police Lab missed only 4%. Boston's failure rate has climbed from 20% to 50% in just the last 3 years. What surprised me most wasn't the delay itself, it was the cause. Officials tied it to the city's residency, rules, pays, and benefits. So this really isn't a technology problem. It's a staffing and a funding issue a city could definitely reverse. If I had $100,000 and 1 year, I would study why Massachusetts kits still face delays even though the state has some of the strongest testing laws in this country. I'd focus on two labs in particular, the State Police Lab and the Boston Police Lab, because their turnaround rates differ so sharply. I'd spend about $40,000 hiring 2 research assistants to build a data set of how long each kit actually takes. Another $25,000 would go to confidential interviews with analysts about what really is slowing this testing down. I'd use $20,000 then to survey the survivors who have used the state's tracking system with a gift card for their time to see whether the tracking has really reduced their stress. My expectation is that the delays come down to too few analysts, basically a staffing issue, and that the shortage is a budget issue, not a limit of forensic science. For a student picking this up in spring of 2027, there's a lot that they could do without a big budget. First, they can read about 5 recent reports to update the numbers since state figures change every quarter. Second, they could compare Massachusetts to 2 other states, North Carolina, which has cleared its entire backlog, and another one that's still struggling, to see which policies actually make the difference. Third, they could survey Worcester State students to find out how many of us even know this backlog exists, which would tell us whether public awareness is part of the issue or not. Alongside, they could also interview one local stakeholder, like a district attorney's office. The goal would be to turn my broad overview into a sharper and a more local picture. I want to leave you with one idea today, that this is a problem where we already have the evidence and the technology to deliver justice. The rape kit and the DNA lab both exist. So the backlog isn't really about what we can do, it's about what we choose to do, and that's what makes it a social problem worth caring about. Thank you so much for listening.